Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to risk, business continuity, resilience, anything that can help you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Today, I have a returning guest who was on really just a couple of weeks ago, right, Charlie?
Yep, yeah, a couple of weeks ago it was.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome back to the show today. We have a couple of different topics we're going to talk about. Charlie Maclean-Bristol. Charlie, welcome back.
No, nice, nice to be here again. So yes, it's good.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we got a couple of topics. I'm going to skip all the introduction bio stuff because now you're an old hat at this. You've been back
Yeah.
a few times, so. But we're going to talk about bringing crisis management and cyber together. And our other topic is going to be future incidents and horizon scanning. But let's start with bringing crisis management and cyber together. And my first question to you is, how do we go about doing that?
Well, yes, it's interesting. Cyber. Um, Cyber is the big thing at the moment. It's chief everyone's risk, everyone's worried about it. The impact of some of the cyber incidents are just sort of pretty catastrophic for companies. And I see that the amount of kind of money impacts companies going forward that cyber incidents causes is just huge. And I don't think any time in the last sort of maybe in the last sort of 100 years we've had a sort of threat that is so pervasive, so could happen to anyone, could happen to any geography, could happen to any type company. So cyber is a thing at the moment. And I sometimes think business continuity is slightly turned into the poor cousins at the moment. If you want money, all that money's in cyber and going into IT, and it's going into um, security operations centers and software and all that sort of stuff. And I think the sort of business continuity element of it gets slightly missed out of. And so I think with cyber, with business continuity, I think we need to sort of step up to the table and say, actually, for business continuity, we have quite a lot to offer, and you need to not forget about us. And I think you need to impose yourself upon that kind of cyber debate and cyber work that's going on and say, right, we need to take part in this.
How do you actually go about doing that? And the reason I ask is I've been in a couple of positions where I have approached the cyber team saying, hey, guys, you can't do this all on your own. We need to bring in XYZ groups, as for a proper response. And a lot of times cyber is like, no, we don't need you. We got it under control. So how do you really go about bringing them together? What kind of actions should I do? Or are there secret phrases maybe that I should use to capture their attention?
I think, yeah, there is a lot of the focus now is on the upfront stuff. It is preventing the people getting into your case, getting into your systems in the first place. So a lot of the time, effort, and money is being spent on that. But I think, when we see quite a lot of organizations that got sort of heavy duty kind of cyber organizations in there, and they do all the upfront stuff, but they also do this computer incident response team. They also do the response bit. And I think, you need to say, look, we're never second guessing you IT people. You've done all your magic to try and stop the people getting in. But we all know that if they really want to get in, nation states can get in if they want to get in. Or 0 day, something, a flaw that nobody's ever seen before, they'll always get it. They can always get in, or they get like to get in. So if you work with them, the press said, we're not trying to second guess you, not trying to do your job, not to do it properly, but if you can get in, then that opens a conversation to us, because the stuff that we offer for at the top level is often we've done the crisis management plan. Sometimes business continuity people we do, sometimes we don't, but we offer the crisis management plan response. And, for me, when you're dealing with a cyber incident, once it's happened, there's four things. You've got your technical response, which techie guys will do. And yeah, fair dues to them. They do that magic. But there is the reputation, crisis communication, and reputational management. That's what you die of. You don't die of
Mm.
technical failures. You die of because you don't manage your client's expectation, you don't speak to them, and they all abandon you and go elsewhere. So it's reputational manager. There is a whole load of statutory reporting and communication. So you need to do that. There'll be different ones that you'll have to us in Europe, but our information commission officer, you've got to report at something in 72 hours or you get a massive fine. And then also there is the continuity of operations. So you need to have your continuity of business continuity, all about continuity operations. That's what we do. So I think if you try and frame it on the response side, then you can get their attention. Say, look, we've
Mm.
got a whole other stuff, make your life easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one conversation I had with a cyber manager, and he was saying, "Yeah, we'll do all this stuff." And I said, "So how are you going to get disaster recovery involved if they have to go in and do certain things?" Well, they've got their plan. I'm going, "Yeah, but your plan doesn't link to them, and they have no idea that they're even referenced in yours." I said, "And your crisis manager," I said, "is going to be you all of a sudden?" I said, "What about that senior vice president who currently is the crisis manager when something happens, who's designated? What's his role? What's happening
Yeah,
there? Why aren't you part of that structure?" I said, "And data," I said, "if data has to be recreated or figured out what's going on because it's been corrupted, how are you linking and communicating with the business? What's the business
yeah.
going to do?" Uh, well, I don't know. I'm going, "So wait a minute. You have a wonderful plan, but it's connected to nothing."
Yeah, and I think that
And
I think we need to be pushing that thing, and we need to be saying to people, how is this? How is this? I've seen kind of plans, one or two cases where the heavy duty people come in external and they write this kind of computer incident response team. As part of that, they say, "Oh, give me a couple of executives to come in our team," and we're going, no, we got a crisis management plan already, which we've written. You've just been a bit lazy or arrogant or both. And actually, you've not asked, where's the crisis management team? So, exactly your point, you're going to end up with a sort of shadow, crisis management team and the CERT and those two executives. Which one are they going to go to? And how is it going to work? And so it does happen sometimes. I think my experience is people are reasonably sophisticated to this, but not
we hope.
always. Yeah, we hope. Yeah, I teach on a cyber incident management course, a 2-day course, and I quite often go through and say, look, what is your structure? I talk about this, crisis management team, CERT here, how do the two interface? And about 2/3 of them have got it. So maybe the news is better out there. Maybe the ones you're speaking to, the ones who less clue, and so they're allowing you there.
Yeah, I know there are some changes occurring out there.
Yeah,
Maybe that's I just haven't run into those yet. I just had
yeah,
two clients in a row exactly the same, and I'm like,
yes,
what's
yeah,
going on? Why are people not understanding? There's a big
yeah.
puzzle to respond, and you're just one piece of it. How can you claim to be the whole picture when you're just one little piece of that puzzle?
Yes. And I think, people forget about in all this cyber thing is say, you need to continue operations. You're all about delivering services. So how do you continue to deliver those? How do you continue to deliver those services? Because, if you don't deliver services, you've not got an organization there. And, that's where your business continuity plans come in because they should be set up you know, for business continuity people, they don't really care about what caused the incident. If it's a loss of IT, like the CrowdStrike, or whether it's a cyber incident, it's loss of IT. There's all the stuff that cyber do to kind of chase them out, and all the forensics and all the pay and not pay. But to a business continuity manager, that's kind of up there. So what we're looking at to say, actually, we've got no IT what's our continuity of operations plans? What are our manual workarounds? And you know, for some organizations, there is no manual workaround. If you're something like bookings.com or Uber, you can't go and say, well, we'll get 20 people in there, they'll answer the phone and dispatch cars worldwide. You can't have it. No platform, no IT, no business. But there's lots of other organizations, manual workarounds. You can do something to keep your business going. So you have to rely on that business continuity to keep your operations going.
You bring up an interesting point there when you were talking, cyber is doing their thing over here, business continuity is looking at something different. How do you go about testing all of that? Because now you're bringing in, as you described, many more teams in this kind of event. So how do you go about testing this kind of a response, a cyber response, or the crisis management team? Because usually you have different walkthroughs or simulations, and it's usually isolated. But now you've got a corporate wide, incident. So how do you
Yeah.
go about testing
So
that?
what we do that we do a lot of that because we do exercises and we're certified by our National Cybersecurity Centre to do exercises. So what we do is we do the crisis management level, and we kind of pacify the IT people to say we will not in our exercise say how the bad guys got in, because we'll not do that. But what we will concentrate on is to say they've got in. We're not going to know for several weeks how they got in. So let's park on that. They're comfortable with that because we're not trying to second guess them, not trying to say, oh, they could get in there and say, well, no, we got this and that. And so what we do is say, they've got in, we got a ransomware, you're locked out. What are you going to do? And then we play through the crisis management of that. Sometimes what is working really well is when we get the technical people to explain what has happened, what the impact is, what they're doing, to come into the crisis management team and say, look, you've heard you got an incident. This is what's happened. This is what we're doing. We've cut off all our systems to protect that. We've stopped all our APIs going in there. We've done that. We are looking for you to say, actually, we want something, communications to staff. We need to think about, we've cut all these APIs from our customers, so we need to think about informing them. And then we play it through as a crisis management bit. And then the techie guys might say to the crisis team, these are some of the questions or these things we want to do. And then we kind of bring them in at the end of the exercise, and they maybe update the scenario, or they actually get some instructions from the crisis management team. We'd like to do this, or they might come in the beginning and say, what's our priorities? This is what the business continuity plan does. It is that what you want, or do you want to change it for this incident there? So it's different things for different people there.
Is that the opportunity for business continuity then? Is to bring all that together to plan a real end-to-end event, scenario, test, exercise, who can then make sure that the follow-ups are done, making sure that the crisis management team leader has to do this. Oh, cyber, you've got to update this. Information technology, you got to do that. Disaster recovery,
Yeah.
you have to do this. Finance team, you have to figure out how to do that. Is that an opportunity for business
Yeah, I think
continuity
so.
to really step up?
I think IT guys on the whole, and those are generalizations, don't have the experience to run exercises. Well, we do. So we go in and run those exercises and bring in the technical people, but bring the business continuity people, because we need to know what the recovery, what is the capabilities. So you can almost, like when you bring the technical people, we have done the past, bring in the business continuity manager, if they're not part of the crisis team, which often they're not, in saying, right, business continuity manager, tell us what are our priorities, what are our RTOs, what is our recovery profile, what can we do? And then there's a little bit of an opportunity to showcase the business continuity manager to come in there. Or maybe the business continuity is running the exercise, but he has their second in command or somebody else to come in and do this. But I think some real opportunities for us to get ourselves involved in there and add value with our skills into the cyber piece.
I had a previous guest mention this once before, is that sometimes in these cyber events, tests, or even, if they're a part of another test, that uh, when you're trying to bring these together, sometimes the technology side is a little, um, they're not as forthcoming because they don't want to really know what, don't really want people to know that, hey, we can't meet that RTO, because those discussions have never occurred. So sometimes when you're
Yes.
bringing these together, you're not really going through the proper uh, activities that you would perform in a real event. You're kind of simulating a happy path type thing, like,
Yes,
yeah,
I
everything's
think
going on. So how do you pull people out of their shell to really give up their information to say this is really what will happen?
that's a really point. I wrote a blog article about one of the Western Isles. Actually, that is where the American president's mother came from, the Western Isles. But I wrote about a cyber attack. They had a cyber attack, and a year and a half later, they still haven't got access to systems. They are still responding to that cyber attack. That's a year and a half later. We had another local authority that was doing conveyancing, so all about selling houses. They still 5 years later haven't got access to the base data, and they'll probably never have access to the base data because it was locked out the cyber attack. But I think the point is yeah, and I'm guilty of this, is not playing enough on the back end and saying, actually, what are your capabilities for recovery? We did an exercise with an insurance company, and the guy said, well, it's probably a couple of days, but I can really do it in 4 hours. And I went, we have a discussion in Scotland and say, aye, right. Yeah. And I'm not going to go and argue with him, and it depends on the situation, what he's got. But I do think it is really, really important that in incidents, the IT are realistic about their recovery process and really about the project time. It might take a week to try and just check how they got in and if they're still in there and how there's no point recovering anything if you're just putting up the systems again, the bad guys are back in again. You're not achieving anything. And you might be able to recover in 4 hours, but that takes a week to do that bit. So I think we have to try and persuade IT people to be realistic and to be honest and say, actually, with our capability, this is what we can recover. It will take days and weeks. Give me lots more money, and I'm sure I can make it quicker. but what I think the worst thing is there shouldn't be surprises for senior man ransomware day. It said you IT people or your last predecessor, because that was 3 years ago, said we could be back in 4 hours. And we're looking at a month here. We're looking at certain databases we'll never get back ever. So I think realism in terms of exercising business continuity is very important.
Well, I don't want to seem as though we're picking on our IT friends here. So let's go to the business side. Business really needs to prioritize properly. A lot of times when you get your BIA results and you talk to business, this, and this, and this, and the other thing is all critical. But when the chips are down, half of those disappear. Well, we could probably get away. It's like they need to be forthright of what's important as well, right?
Yeah. Well, if you do your BIA properly, you should be able to get some sort of, these are the first ones and these are the ones that are month plus. But I've written on this before, is I think in cyber incidents and real incidents too, often our RTOs are unrealistic. Often, in a sort of catastrophic situation, I've seen people who have run big warehouses, big distribution companies run warehouses, and they have an RTO of warehouse operations for 6 hours. If your warehouse burns to the ground, you're not going to get your operations in 6 hours. That's just the MTPD, when you go out to business, is a day. It doesn't happen. So I think RTOs are on the whole generally far too tight. They might work in some circles, but a lot of in cyber they won't. I don't like this idea of having, oh, this is a kind of normal RTO and this is cyber RTO. Maybe with the RTOs, what you have to say, these are tier one, tier two, tier three, and tier four. We think tier one should be around about 24 hours, but if it's a cyber incident, they might shift that way, but they're still, these are the first ones, these are the second, these are the third, the fourth. So
Yeah.
I think you're right about
I add a
it being
tier 0 to
unrealistic.
that.
Sorry?
I always add a tier 0 to that. If there's, using your warehouse example, everything is gone,
Yeah.
then we have to rebuild the network. We have to make sure all the servers are plugged in and we've got all that stuff up and running first.
Yeah.
Or your 24 before we can even address your 24-hour stuff, we need 12 or 24 hours of our own
Yeah.
to get the
We
infrastructure.
need the sequencing. We need the
Yeah.
sequence. We need to get the sequencing. Yeah. But I think at least, if you've done your BIAs, you can then say, right, these are the activities we need first. These are the applications we need first. We might switch around on the day, but I do think doing that work is a good start. You don't want to bun fight on the day of people, oh no, I want my system. I want my system. You don't want that on the day because it just wastes time when you haven't got time.
Yeah, you want to know that up front. We
Yeah.
only have 2.5 minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts on bringing crisis management and cyber together?
I think there's two things: is do your exercising, make sure that you offer yourself to do exercising, and the reputational response is the important bit. Say we don't know how the people get in, so you keep the IT people on side, and you don't have a massive issue about trying to say how the disaster occurred. And then the final bit is think about your business continuity, how that adds value to your recovery.
And on that note, we've come to the end of the this segment, not the show. Sorry, just this segment. We're talking with Charlie Maclean-Bristol today. We were talking about bringing crisis management and cyber together. In our next segment, we're going to talk about future incidents and horizon scanning. We will be right back. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.